Jai Hind everyone. Today I, Afreen Almas, Assistant Professor in Sardar Patel Subharti Institute of Law, is here before you to have a discussion on the topic of preamble of the Constitution of India. There are various topics that I'll be covering in this presentation. Number one, I'll make you understand the preamble, that it has three parts, and I'll come up with the discussion on each part of the preamble. Next question which I'll take up is whether the preamble is a part of the Constitution of India or not in the light of the history and the judicial pronouncement. First, let's look at what are the three parts of the preamble and look into each part of the preamble in detail. The bifurcation which I am telling you is not as been put forward by the constitutional framers, but it is for easy convenience of understanding. The three parts have been divided. If you look at the preamble very clearly, in the initial portion where it starts with "We the people of India," it talks about the India which we have solemnly resolved to secure to all its citizens with the four objectives. The first part, if you see, is about the resolution that the people of India takes. And they say the people of India solemnly resolve to constitute the country India into sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic. The first is the resolution. I'll come into more better discussion one by one on each of these parts. The second portion of the preamble talks about that people of India resolve to want to have a country for its citizens with the four main objectives. If you see the preamble very clearly, the four objectives have been highlighted. Number one is justice, number two, liberty, number three, equality, and number four, fraternity. In detail, when we'll have a discussion, I'll take one by one these major objectives which have been enshrined in the preamble in detail, to what extent we are talking about justice or to what extent we are talking about equality, or for that matter the other objectives. So the second portion is about the provisions or the objectives which we want to attain for our country. Thirdly, if you see, is more of a declaration. It's the people of our country which adopted, enacted and gave to themselves ultimately this constitution. So the third portion is about declaration. So again, I would like to repeat, the three portions are: number one, it's resolving to have the what kind of country or what nature of the country we want to have. Secondly, we are talking about the major objectives that we want to ultimately attain in our country through this constitution. Thirdly is the declaratory portion where we finally adopt and enact this constitution for ourselves. That in India, the people enact the constitution in our constituent assembly, but that assembly was composed of representatives elected by a minority of people of India, and the constitution itself was never submitted to the people directly. When we talk about the very initial three terms of the constitution, that is "we the people," what does it mean? Does it we need to inquire into the correctness of the declaration "we the people," because factually our constitution was framed by the Constituent Assembly and which was elected by a narrow franchise. Now, if you see, the constitution was not submitted by the people for ratification. So now the question comes whether we have correctly put the term "we the people," though they were not exactly the one who have come up with the framework of the preamble. This question came up before the Keshwananda Bharati case, and there are different judges who have expressed different views in relation to this. There was a different view which was expressed in Keshwananda Bharati case by Justice Hegde and by Justice Mathew. However, we should not, however, it is not necessary to enter into this controversy. for the reason that there was Indian Independence Act, which undoubtedly gave legal authority to the Constituent Assembly of our country to frame this constitution for ourselves. Now, there is another point I would like to put forward, that is by Professor Weir. Professor Weir has discussed that our constitution was made by the people. Professor Weir has also highlighted the point that it is not unreal in any case to speak of the people enacting a constitution in or through a constituent assembly. It is seldom indeed that the people are asked even to approve the constitution ostensibly enacting in their name. Moreover, once the constitution is enacted, even it is submitted for the people's approval, it binds thereafter not only the institutions which are established by it, but also the people itself. People can go for making amendments in the constitution, if at all required, or if it is all necessary to do so. So thereby, what is the reflection by the term we the people? Though the people are not exactly ratifying the so-called the constitution which has been framed by the Constituent Assembly, but since they are into a position that they can make amendments in the future, it is well considered that it has been given by the people. So we can very rightly put forward the term we the people to understand that we are the people who have given to ourselves this preamble. Now next point which comes up, that is the terms which we have resolved. What kind of a country we want? Now we want to have, initially when the constitution was framed, there were initially three terms. There was sovereign, democratic and republic. These three requirements were there for the country which we were looking for. But subsequently, what happened in the year 1976, by the 42nd Amendment, there were two more terms included in the resolution or in the nature of country that we were looking for. And those two terms were socialist and secular. Now we need to inquire into each of these terms which have been put in the preamble finally in the year 1976. Now if you see the nature of the country which we were looking for finally after the 42nd Amendment 1976 is into 5 things that we have put into the constitution. One thing was sovereign. Now what do we understand by the sovereign? When you talk about the term sovereign, it reflects that you are independent to make your own decisions for the country internally and externally both. Now when you are saying internally, obviously a country is independent internally. I would try to more focus on sovereignty in the sense of externally. Now when you are deciding anything for your country, you are free without interference of any external powers to decide for your own country what you want to do or what is best for your people. Now next term that you see is socialist. What do you mean by the term socialist? If we look into the understanding of the term socialist, are we looking for a socialist country like that of Soviet Union, which can even turn out to be dictator country? No, we were looking for the socialist term in the light of, in a limited sense. When we said socialist, we wanted to have a country where the very important resources of the country are in the hands of government. It's the government, being a welfare country, decides in the favor of people and use and utilize those natural resources in the favor of people at large. Why? There is another reason why we wanted to have a socialist pattern. The main reason was, since we got independence, we want public welfare at large. So it's better that the government look after the important natural resources on its own rather giving it to some private sector. So that is about the socialist. Now let's move to another term, that is secular. Now let me again remind you that these two terms, that socialist and secular, were not initially there in the constitution when the Constituent Assembly has framed it. It was inserted in the year 1976. Secular, if we look at, are we trying to say that country is, because secular has number of meanings, it cannot be confined to one meaning. If you see, when the constitution, then it would mean that the state is opposed to religion. This can be one meaning. And the other meaning, which could also be inferred from the term secular, is whether our country is anti-religion state. Are we looking for a country where the country is anti-religion? But this is not possible, because as we see in your constitution, you have right to religion. So what inference you should draw from the term secular? One side you are giving the right to religion, it means you are giving due respect to religion. On the other side, secular could also mean it is anti-religion. Can this controversy be there in the constitution? No. We wanted to have the country as secular, thereby we mean to say that the state do not favor any religion. We are not trying to become a country with, anti-religion policy or an anti-religion state. We are trying to become a country where state do not favor any particular religion. So that is what we are looking for, and the state should not support any religion, either by the public funds, because state might go funding for a particular religious institution out of the public fund and not favoring the other one. This is what we don't want. We don't want that the state supports the institutions, or for that matter any religious institution or denominations, through the public funds or through the penalizing the practice of any religion, or right to manage religious institutions. This is not what we are looking for in a secular country. When we are saying secular, it would simply mean that state should not favor any of the religion. Now, there are a number of cases in the light of this, and whereby the constitution has put forward, there are a number of landmark judgments which has highlighted the point whether secular is a basic structure of the constitution or not. For that you can look few cases like S.R. Bombay case and others. Now let's look into the inquiry of another term, that is democratic. Democratic is the term which you have been studying since your schools and all. So I think that you must not be finding any difficulty in understanding what is democracy, because it is generally a very common definition that you must have come across is of Abraham Lincoln, who said democracy is by the people, for the people and of the people. So democracy is ultimately all about people. It's the people who are deciding by whom they want to get governed. There is another term that has been used is republic. Now what do you mean by the term republic? When you see into the disclosure of knowing what is republic, you come to know it's not the king who is being a head of the country or some monarch who is being a head of the country. It's an elected representative who is becoming the head of the country. And in our country we have the president who is the head of the country. So our country is republic in nature. Now please understand all these 5 terms, and if you can look at that, yes, we are a sovereign country, we take our decisions on our own. We observe that the state do not favor anyone, any religion particularly. We have seen our country as a socialist country, as could be also observed in one of the cases, that is Elsevier versus Union, where Supreme Court has said that addition of social might enable the court to live more inclined in favor of nationalization and state ownership of industry. Now when we were talking about the term that is secular, the government and the political parties which lack religious tolerance, deny equal treatment to all religious groups, and which fail to protect their life, property, and place of worship run counter to secularism. This has been put forward in S.R. Bommai versus Union of India. Further, I would like to also put a point that secularism in India does not envisage a strict wall of separation between the state and religion. As for example, like you have in USA. In India, it is susceptible to a positive meaning, that is developing understanding and respect towards different religions. This is what we wanted in our country, as has been also put forward in Aruna Roy case versus Union of India. Now there is another inquiry that we should look for, that is in the case of Excelsior versus Union in the year 1979, where Supreme Court has said in relation to what do we mean by socialist. Supreme Court said that addition of the word social might enable the court to lean more and more in favor of nationalization and state ownership of industry. The principle of socialism and social justice could be pursued to the extent as to ignore the interest of the another sector, that is private sector. So this is what we mean by the term socialist, and I hope by now you must be clear with all those 5 terms which are imposed in the initial portion of the preamble. Now let's move towards the major objective, that is the second part of the preamble, the major objectives that we wanted to attain. First, we want to secure to all our citizens justice. Now what kind of justice we want? There are further terms which have been used after the term justice. It says justice which is social, economic and political. It means we have tried to give justice, a just country in every aspect. Socially also, politically also and economically also. We don't want to create bifurcations in giving justice. We don't want to say that if somebody wants to attain political justice, then it is no, you can't seek for political justice but we'll give you social justice. And let me also tell you that all these terms are interconnected. When you talk about economic justice, it would somewhere come up with the social justice also. So the terms justice has been used in every sense. We are talking about being just in every aspect, socially, economically and also politically. There is another objective, that is liberty. What do we mean by the term liberty? It is used with the terms liberty of thoughts, expression, belief, faith and worship. When you look into these terms, means we are talking about freedom of thinking anything. We can express ourselves, we can come up with any kind of belief and faith and worship. Now when you see the term liberty and when you see the preamble, then when you see the term liberty and when you see the fundamental right, then you realize that there is freedom of thought given under Article 19. That you have a freedom of expressing yourself, thought and expressions are being used under Article 19. They might be not written directly, but somewhere you can make an inference of those liberties in Article 19. There is liberty of belief, faith and worship. Where do you find these liberties in the Constitution? So to this the answer is Article 25. Your right to religion gives you that right or liberty to go with the belief you want to have. You can go professing your own religion and go for worshipping the way you like.